Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. My name is Trang, and I'm delighted to be your host for today's Refinitiv Perspectives live stream. Anyone who even knows me a little is aware of how passionate I am about diversity, inclusion, and women's rights. So I'm really excited to host today's special episode to celebrate International Women's Day. I've been extremely inspired by the progress made over the past couple of years when it comes to advancing gender equality, whether it's increasing female participation in leadership roles or government, or improving access to basic rights for women, including education or healthcare, especially in developing countries. But the road really to close the gender gap, I think, is a long one to go, and it's been further challenged by the COVID-19 pandemic. According to a recent McKinsey report, the division in terms of employment opportunities between men and women have actually widened during the pandemic, as women have been disproportionately affected by unemployment and job losses, and they also increasingly juggle work with other added responsibilities, including caring for their children, the sick, and the elderly during the pandemic. In addition, sadly, the UN has described as a shadow pandemic the phenomenon that domestic violence has surged by a staggering 20% during lockdown, and the majority of victims are women. So these are pretty grim figures, but besides discussing these challenges, I'm also really looking forward to understanding how, as a female professional, you can thrive in really challenging circumstances and what it takes to really advance diversity and inclusion. And to do so, I'm really excited to welcome three amazing individuals who have each charted a remarkable career in financial services. Vernice Moh, Managing Director for ASEAN Data Analytics, and Shannon Joly, Global Head of Marketing Activation, both from LSEG, and Sabrina, Head of FX Sales and Trading for Scotiabank. Welcome all.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, thanks, Trang.
Hi, good morning and good afternoon, and thanks so much for joining us here today. I'm really excited about this discussion, as I mentioned in the introduction. And I guess just to kick us off, I wanted to just kind of find out more about your backgrounds and what got you started in the career you're in. And perhaps we could start with you, Sabrina, and then Shannon and Vernice.
Hi, everyone. Hi, I'm Sabrina Tan from Scotiabank. I'm with the FX Trading and Sales Desk for APAC. Money, of course, we are all in the bank. So no, actually fascinated by the various technologies and the ever-changing landscape in the trade floor. There's never 2 days of the same if you work on the trade floor. The adrenaline rush is real, and you can choose to be, very complex to come to a decision, or you can be very simple with I'm talking about trading decision, or you can choose it to be very simple. So the ability to be trading with the market in tandem, the highs and the lows, bring out a lot of satisfaction in me. That's simply why I choose finance. Thank you.
Great. So for myself, I must admit, I never expected to be working in financial services. I came actually through a translation degree in Paris and was doing a lot of translation for Société Générale. And one opportunity opened up, changing course and becoming an executive assistant for Thomson Reuters. And it was a monumental time because they were charting a new strategy around their platform that they were going to take to market. And I had a really unique opportunity of seeing that, horizontally. And I was always encouraged to use that opportunity as a platform for me, for my career, to just learn and stay open to opportunity. So about 18 months later, I went into marketing and got a degree in marketing. And ever since, I've been evaluating in marketing. So it's lovely. And I agree with Sabrina that working in financial services seems a little bit intangible, but we actually have a huge impact on the way our world works in so many ways and in so many people. So yes, it's an exciting industry to be in.
Hi everyone, I'm Vernice. I look after the ASEAN business for Refinitiv, which is now part of London Stock Exchange Group. So for me, I grew up in a very humble family background, and my dad is actually the one who actually drew me to a career in finance. He has always encouraged me when I was a little girl to pursue a career finance, to pursue a career in finance. And at that time, it was the hottest industry, and I also believe that actually it provides the endless career opportunities and possibilities out there. So I took on his advice. I graduated with a business management degree in Australia, and since then I never looked back.
Great, really, really interesting to kind of hear all your stories and how it started. And I know that each of you have kind of carved a really interesting kind of career journey. But if you could identify, one proud moment or one key achievement, and on the other side, perhaps one key challenge that you've encountered during this journey, that would be great to hear. And perhaps, I don't know, Shannon, do you want to start first?
Yeah, sure. I mean, when I think over the past 13, 14 years, it's been full of opportunities. And for me, a proud moment, I think, is when, leadership kind of looks to you in an unexpected way to lift up and challenge yourself, but also help the company get through really monumental moments. So, of course, for me, a really proud moment was actually leading the brand transition to become Refinitiv from Thomson Reuters Financial and Risk. And it was a bit unexpected, but given my tenure in the company, the connections that I had made across the business, and knowing who does what at Thomson Reuters, it was really an incredible opportunity for me to step in and just connect people together and deliver our new brand. And of course, having done that just recently as well, and kind of leading the day one initiatives for LSEG, I really stepped into a place that I felt comfortable and proud in just bringing people together and getting a really, let's call it, monumental challenge over the line. But of course, along the way, I think one key challenge has been, with my two children, so I have two little ones, I have a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old, and when I think back to maternity leaves, it was such a, let's say, an anxiety-filled moment of trying to prepare my departure and make sure that everything was, going to be waiting there for me when I got back. And so I felt like in those two different challenges, you have to justify your worth and your being within the company. And it's a little bit, uncomfortable, even though the company was extremely open arms. I think there is something that women hold and carry on their shoulders, regardless of the company that they work in, just making sure that they are, putting their best self forward before they leave on maternity leave. So that was a little bit challenging, but has always been welcomed with opportunity when I came back.
I think that's a challenge that has been potentially further exacerbated by the pandemic. So we'd love to kind of hear your thoughts, Vernice and Sabrina as well.
Yeah, I'll start first. So I think I'm lucky. Shannon, I have teenagers right now, or in fact young adults, no longer young children. So actually working at home for me is not really a big issue. But in terms of to share my one proud moment, to think back, I've been in the company for like 20 years, so it's been a long time. In this company, I've been presented with a lot of opportunities, but the moment that I felt really, proud is it's actually in Cancun, Mexico, when it was a CEO circle trip, which is a prestigious sales award trip, and you're allowed to bring your spouse along. And in that event, I actually won a even higher, Asia sales award at that time. And at that time, I was like, oh wow, this is really amazing. And I'm so proud to be able to win that award in the presence of my husband, and a role model for my kids. So at that point of time, it was really I was really feeling ecstatic. And my husband has always been very supportive of my career progression. He's been a coach for me, like it or not, and always giving me very constructive feedback, sometimes too much. But I really appreciate, the support that I get from, my family and my friends. In terms of challenge, I guess my challenge is a little bit different from Shannon. My challenge, I felt that it's more self-inflicted in a way, which I think a lot of Asian women feel that way, which is, I would use a simple word, imposter syndrome. What does that mean? I see, basically imposter syndrome means that you have a feeling that you feel that you're not as competent, but other people think that you are competent. So I was reading a lot of research, right? And normally women strive to achieve perfection more than men. So I think that's quite a common syndrome, and I hope as long as you are aware of your shortcomings, and you have this syndrome, you'll be able to change that. So that's it for me, Trang.
Thank
for
you.
me,
And I think, yeah,
so
Sabrina.
one proud moment. I've been more than 30 years in the trading, line. So it has to be, ironically, the Asian crisis, from what seems to be a disastrous month, and I was able to turn around and become one of the best trading year ever. So I was fortunate to be in a bank where they recognizes what we have done for the bank. So that it has to be that one trading year for all me as a traders. Biggest challenge, I am in a male-dominated industry. If you go on the trade floor, you girls will see that there are a lot of boys all around me, and you often thought that you have to be one of the boys, right? But over the years, as I matured, you learn that by playing to your strength, you can also be equally successful. Up to today, people around me knows that I cannot drink. I'm not good with my liquor, but I survived more than 30 years in this industry so far and still going strong. So I'm really proud of that as well. So you don't have to be coerced to do things that you don't want to. I see Vernice is laughing. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Sabrina is a strong lady. I attest to that.
Yeah. So play to your strength. You always get you there as well. Thanks.
Yeah, I think you all kind of mentioned themes that a lot of us can resonate with around the imposter syndrome, self-worth, perfectionism, being in a male-dominated environment. So I would really love to hear more about how you're able to kind of juggle all these professional and personal commitments, and how do you really kind of stay on top of your game? But also, I mean, more importantly, how do you keep your sanity amidst it all? Sabrina, do you want to kind of get us started?
Sure. Yeah. So, as you know, I'm trading background, and once you get into the trade floor, it can be quite chaotic. I force myself to stay very clear-minded of my priorities and being true to yourself. Don't force yourself to do things that you're not willing to. Do not let emotions or stress consume you. There are a lot of shouting and screaming back then. I mean, it's lesser these days. Yeah, but don't let consume you for too long. They are vexation to the spirit, and they can metaphorically drive you insane. So to me, physical health and mental health become more important as I grow older. So giving myself a lot of me time every now and then, and plus doing a lot of outdoor activities, exercise frequently, has helped me to clear up my mind for that period of time. Over to you, Trang.
Thanks. And do you want to add to that, Shannon?
Yeah, I mean, I wish I could say that I had a really great, meditation ritual. I actually tried that. I was losing my mind during the first lockdown. 3-year-old and a 5-year-old in the apartment. I'm in my bedroom. You can see that we don't have a huge space. And so I was going crazy, and I would have to find at least 10 minutes a day. And I downloaded one of the free meditation apps. I mean, that helped. It helped me not just completely freak out on my children, who, poor things, were also confined to an apartment. So, I mean, I don't have a miracle solution, but what I have found as well is that actually talking to my children and actually trying to explain to them what I do. It's not too early. They're not too young. They're never too young. Always try to share why you're so dedicated to your work, why you work so many hours. And a lot of it is not just that I have to. And I think that narrative comes across a lot from mothers or parents just saying, oh, I have to work, or mommy has to work. Actually, no, I want to, and I like it, and I get a lot of self-enjoyment from working. So I've really tried to give them that and explain that to them. And now they really do start to understand, that this is something that's part of me and part of what I like. So yeah, I'd say that it's been just talking to them and then trying to get a few 10 minutes of meditation app time. Vernice, what about you?
Yeah, for me, it's again a little bit different from you, Shannon. I guess for me, because I'm still pretty new to my MD role for ASEAN, perhaps 12 months old now. So for me, I feel that to stay on top of my game, I always have to be prepared for any meetings, whether it's internal or external, and always be updated with the current affairs and industry trends, because I'm representing the front line. So it's a lot of reading to do. And I think the one also very important thing is to constantly maintain your network, whether it's networking internally or externally. I think that helps a lot as well. Um, the other thing is I thought that's quite useful is always to seek for constructive feedback from your trusted peers or friends, and surround yourself with lots of supporters to so that you can share your challenges, vent your frustration, and improve yourself better. In terms of keeping my sanity, so I think I agree with Sabrina totally. You got to have me time, take care of yourself, take time to recharge, and always remember to have fun, right? So I used to do a lot of traveling. Traveling is great. 2 weeks of traveling helps you to recharge, but traveling nowadays is kind of unheard of at this moment. So what I do is I do regular exercise, at least 3 times a week. I like massages, so I'll try to book my massages, and of course hang out with good friends and have lots of laughter. Over to you, Trang.
Thank you so much. I mean, lots of good thoughts, meditation, exercise, me time. But I love the suggestion from Shannon about, treating your children as adults and really kind of being honest about all your commitments to them. And I think that applies to so many other conversations and topics as well when it comes to being a mom and a working mom. So thanks so much for sharing that. And I think, Vernice, you've touched on some of the challenges women in Asia face. And I want to kind of focus on that topic a bit, because I think a lot of our listeners are coming from this part of the world. So would you want to kind of zone in on that topic and perhaps identify what you consider as some of the challenges women in Asia particularly face when it comes to, advancing and being more successful?
Yeah, so I mentioned about imposter syndrome, right? I think, as I speak to different, younger women who wants to have, a career in this industry, I think it's good for them to be aware of this, right? So that they are aware of it and they can improve themselves in the future. But it's definitely more apparent, I feel, in the East Asia part of the world. So the other challenge in Asia is also society and cultural expectation. I mean, Shannon, although you're not in Asia part of the world, but I think in Asia, women are expected to do much more when it comes to family, family responsibilities, even though you are working out there. So that remains a kind of key challenge as well.
Sabrina, what are your thoughts? Do you agree?
Yeah, I agree with Vernice. Yeah, I think, but being in Singapore, we are a lot more fortunate being in a multiracial, multilingual society, and we grew up with all sorts of friends, good friends around our neighborhood, and that's a majority of the DNI has been conquered, or more than 50%. So I would say that we are quite unique in that situation. It is. I mean, diversity doesn't mean just a gender thing. So I think we have an advantage in that. And then I think it is taking that first step out, to believe in yourself. And I think there is a lot of challenges out there, of course, even for the men as well. But being a woman, there are a lot of support group as well. So it's about looking out for that. So I think we are considered very fortunate to where we are. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you, Sabrina. I mean, in Singapore, I think we are in a good place, right? Because a lot of us are given the good education opportunity. So I think we women who's in Singapore has the advantage. But I guess what I meant, East Asia would be places like Malaysia, Indonesia, Philippines, where the women may not have the same opportunities as we do when it comes to education. So I feel that there's a lot more disparity around that region.
Yeah, and I guess even that McKinsey report that I referenced at the beginning actually shows that this is a big issue around the pandemic around the world, where it's become women who were expected to kind of look after the children when they were homeschooled, to kind of take care of the household. So it was really kind of interesting to see that kind of trend actually applies across different regions. So I think we have our work cut out for us to really kind of close that gender gap as we kind of come back from this new normal. So thanks again for sharing your thoughts as well. And I guess I wanted to kind of at least mention the DNI Index that we at Refinitiv publish every year, which is really kind of identifying the top 100 companies that are really kind of championing diverse and inclusive workplaces. And from my understanding, last year, 21 of these companies came from the Asia Pacific region, which is actually, I think, is not a bad figure. So I wanted to kind of find out from you, Vernice, like what are your thoughts on these findings, and is there anything else that you want to kind of highlight from last year's index?
Yeah, I guess based on the Refinitiv DNI Index last year, I think it shows encouraging progress within the Asia Pac firms in their effort to increase the workplace DNI. So as you mentioned, Trang, out of the 21 APAC companies that's ranked in top 100 globally, 6 are actually coming out from ASEAN-based companies, and they're coming out from Malaysia, Singapore, and Thailand. So surprisingly, in fact, Thailand is leading the way within the Southeast Asia region with this company that I have not even heard of, Thailand's Home Product Center PCL, that topped the rank within Southeast Asia. Closer to home, Singapore, for me, Singapore Airlines as well as Singtel were also recognized among the top 100. So definitely, I mean, quite encouraging progress. Now, on top of that, our data also shows that there's a 53% increase in the region's board gender diversity over the last 5 years, and a 78% increase in the number of APAC companies with an official flexi working policy during the same period. So on the the rise in the board gender, Malaysia and Singapore has seen the biggest, largest increase in proportion, 89% for Malaysia and 88% for Singapore. So I think that shows a lot of commitment, from these two countries in terms of what they want to do with DNI and the board, the rise in the board gender agenda. So in short, I think more investors and more businesses are actually paying more attention to DNI practices and disclosure in the APAC region. So it's kind of suggests to me that we can be more confident that the APAC companies will be taking the lead in embedding diversity and inclusion into the business strategy going forward.
That's great to hear. Yeah, I think it will be interesting to kind of compare the results from last year to this year, especially with COVID-19 and everything. And I guess that leads me to my next question, which is really around what your organizations and what you personally have been doing in response to the pandemic to kind of continue championing diversity and inclusion. And I wanted to turn to you, Shannon, first on this question.
Yes, absolutely. So I think something that's pretty, interesting, and maybe for Sabrina to validate or not, a lot of our customers have actually been turning their attention to non-financial data when it comes to performance about companies. Financial data used to be it still is very core, but it used to be very much the only thing that investors would look at, whether it was for capital raising or investment of capital. And now we've really seen with everything that's happened either environmentally, and we have a climate crisis going on, we had a huge demand from our customers to dig deeper into, carbon emission data by company. Over the past year, of course, that pendulum has swung over to the social view of the world, as we've seen with the murder of George Floyd and a lot of the social unrest that's been happening. And it's really unveiled a lot of injustice in terms of representation in the workplace. And so we, not only to meet the demand of our customers, but also to really have a more holistic view of company performance, Refinitiv has been really curating, over the past 15 years, this isn't new, but customer attention on our database is quite new, and our data shows it. So we have done something really great with Fortune magazine and launched Measure Up. We launched it in November of last year, and it's really around minority representation in the workplace, with specific focus on Black American representation in America. But what we did was we worked with our customer operations team, and we added some new fields to our database on minority representation at all levels of the company. And then we've just been working with companies, including our own, to disclose that data so that we can start to have a transparency benchmark from which to work on. And you mentioned the Diversity and Inclusion Index. That includes about 27 of the 450 ESG metrics that we have. And what we're hoping to do is add the minority representation data going forward so that just more and more you get a better, more holistic picture of company performance based on all of these metrics that we have. So like I said at the start, I feel like, when I came into this industry, it felt really intangible. But the more and more that I work on projects like these, it feels very tangible and very human. And I think that, kind of the benefits of working on projects like these as an individual is that, for somebody who's not traditionally concerned by representation, one can consider myself, other than being a woman, it adds increased awareness and valuable learning, so that you can start really feeling what's on the other side of the coin for other people. For the company, of course, it's increased performance. It's an attractive workplace to come and work for. And then I think society as a whole, this disclosure today has a direct impact on capital allocation and investment tomorrow. And so, it's kind of like this snowball that then continues, and we can just only see the impacts increase as we go forward. So, individual, company, and societal, it's all a really great initiative to be involved in.
Thanks so much. And again, I think you've touched on a point that diversity inclusion is really not just about gender, but about so many other aspects around race, ethnicity, ability, orientation, and we could go on. And I think it's really kind of a call to action to companies to contribute this data to Refinitiv and to really kind of disclose their performance on ethnic diversity. But I don't know, Sabrina, do you guys have anything similar, or what has been kind of the focus in terms of DNI for your company?
Well, as you know, Scotiabank is a Canadian bank, and we are very strong in DNI. Very much DNI culture is very deep rooted. And apart from the regular programs that we are being rolling out during the COVID, we have seen the emphasis on mental wellness as well. And we also we have this program that look at elevations of mid-level female staff. So I'm also involved in this elevation program for the participants. It's actually compulsory for all the mid-level female staff, and I'm part of the program where I support. I'm a mentor to them, and I find it's very strong and powerful to have the right mentor, and it does open up a lot of windows for you and also guide you along. Mentor are not someone to connect you with all the path, but make you start thinking what you really want and taking that first step out. So I found that is really powerful to start opening out the routes for you and for you to understand that what is out there and what you are achievable and not achievable. Not everybody will enjoy the same path like what we have taken, to be working mothers or working adults, and not to be home with the children. So everyone has a role to play.
Yeah, thanks. A really good point around career journey is not really being linear, and the importance of mentorship and mental health in particular, and that actually I think obviously goes into my next question so well. I think you guys have planned it so well. I feel like everything is it's so seamless. So I guess really thinking about your younger self and all these aspiring female professionals who are about to start out in their career or are trying to maybe make a change or really kind of progress better, what would be your top advice? Vernice, do you want to start?
Yeah, I think for me, my top advice would be believe in yourself and I can do it attitude.
Yeah, just jumping on to Vernice, I would say that not just believe but trust in your talents. You definitely have the talents, and then stay focused on your goals, and that you will definitely arrive. Over to you, Shannon.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great question because everyone is so unique in where they are in their journey. But I was speaking with someone, who's still finishing their studies and was just asking themselves a lot of questions about, what they're going to do when they go into the professional world, especially those who are impacted by the pandemic right now. I think that the younger generation is actually, overly impacted by what's going on right now in terms of the sacrifices that they're making, but also, their immediate future is really challenged. And one thing I said was, just believe in what you can bring to the table. Everyone has what I like to call their own toolbox. So you have your own references, your own abilities to deal and manage situations. And so don't hesitate to put those kinds of things forward, as you're interviewing, as you're exploring your career opportunities, because what people are looking for is actually what you can uniquely bring to a situation and not really, what is said on paper. And I was even saying, as I look at candidates, whether it be for internships or people coming in, I really like to see the unexpected on CVs, so something that I wasn't even, thinking might be, in somebody's candidate profile, because those unexpected things are really the uniqueness that someone can bring to your organization. And I think, as we're talking about the topic of diversity, just lean into what makes you unique and what makes you really yourself, and don't feel like you need to fit into some sort of mold. Because there's so many people who have done that for so many years, and we find that, monotonous cultures and monotonous ideas don't bring you great performance. So lean into what's really unique. Yeah.
Great advice. I feel like that's the kind of dose of motivation I kind of needed today. So I'm glad you've all shared that with me as well. So I guess to kind of wrap up, the theme for this year's International Women's Day is Choose the Challenge. So what would be your challenge for 2021? Perhaps Vernice again, and then Sabrina, and wrap up with Shannon.
Yeah, I'll keep it short. So I'll challenge myself to keep growing, keep pushing my boundaries, and always strive to be better.
Right. I'm also championing the initiatives for the Women in the Financial Market Association in Singapore. So I want to choose to challenge the ladies to take that first step out, to join and lean into the network. There are many networks and all point to the same direction. So please take that first step out and join us in the network and start elevating ourselves. Over to you, Shannon.
Yeah, well, it's been really great speaking with everyone today. And I'd just say, continue to have a voice, even if it's not in the most comfortable of places. You can always find the right way in which you can convey your point of view. But I think one thing really important about International Women's Day today and the theme is that if you are silent, you're kind of consenting to what you see. So find the right time, the right place, but always challenge what you see, because that's really how we're going to make progress going forward, even if it's not the most comfortable first step to take.
Thank you so much. And yeah, look forward to catching up perhaps in a year's time to see where you've gone with these challenges and I guess commitments. So thank you, all three of you, for joining us here today. I really enjoyed our conversation, and I wish we could continue longer, but I thank you again for coming on the show. And I guess for anyone else who would like to kind of find out more, we've actually just published a report highlighting gender pay gap in the financial services industry and when it comes to investment strategies in particular. And there is the QR code on screen now to download the report if you'd like to find out more. And with that, I would like to say goodbye, and I hope to see you at our next live stream. Take care.